Yeah. First off, just want to thank all the subscribers. Appreciate you guys. Much love. Today's interview is one that really had me reflect on a number of different things. So, first of all, I just want to thank Meazi and Julie for sharing their time and knowledge. Now, what this interview did is it made me look at things because I've always known if you put your mind to something, you can make it happen. If you want something bad enough, you can make it happen. But this made me look at something when you look at a group collectively, right? How what it did is it showed me that you can want the best for people, but the best thing to do is build infrastructure, build something that can benefit people. That's the way you move forward. So that's what I left this interview with is wow, she really built like literally infrastructure and also just just a system for people to rise up, people to better their situation. And I thought that was so dope. And I'm gonna expand on it more later. What I mean by infrastructure. But for now, enjoy this interview. It's a dope interview. I really appreciated it. Again, much love to Julie and Mazi. Here we go. Yep, yep. Some special guests in the house, Julie and Mazi. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want you guys to, if you could, let us know what project you guys are working on and what projects you've been involved with.
Mhm. Yeah,
Sure.
take it away, Mom.
Sure. So about 10 years ago, I adopted Meazi with my husband and her little brother from Ethiopia. And a couple of years um, after, Meazi was in her room one day, uh, just books everywhere in her lap, everywhere books. And she turned to me and she said, "Mom, do you realize in Ethiopia I never had one book?"
Mm.
And it just really struck me. It was so, shocking, but also obvious. And that was the moment where I had an idea that, this is ridiculous. Here's this bright child with all of these books, and this is going to fill her life and her world, right? And think of all the kids where she's from who have never even held a book or seen it or had a story read to them. So I started kind of on a mission to build a library in their village where they were born in rural Ethiopia. And I started doing that. And the more I thought about a library, I realized that, well, what good is a library if the kids don't know how to read, right?
Yeah.
The literacy rates in Ethiopia are very low. These kids in this particular village certainly didn't know how to read. Their parents don't read. Um, and a man I knew who had worked in nonprofits for the Tesfa Foundation in Ethiopia said, "If you're going to have a library, why don't you just build a school?" I was like, "Well, that sounds crazy." I don't,
That
I
does,
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, because it sounds like a huge task, right? Like build a school. How are we gonna do that?
Yeah. And, but he helped. And basically what, we ended up doing on our end is raising the money. And then getting obviously a team there of local people to build the school. So it wasn't like we were physically building it, and our part became the fundraising.
Yes.
And so I think I held the very first fundraiser we held was an art auction in Venice at the Electric Lodge, and it was 10 years ago. And at the time, it was super easy to get help and donations and support, and almost the entire evening cost nothing to put on. And we raised enough money to fund the building of the school. Um, and then over the years, we've just been trying to keep it going, and we've added things to it, like a feeding program where the kids get a small meal every day. And the school is kindergarten through fourth grade, 350 kids. And when it first opened, the kindergarten, there were kids as old as 15 starting kindergarten. They'd never been in school or had any sort of schooling. So it was pretty remarkable and pretty inspiring to see these kids and photos from the school. And it just really became a great thing for this community. And we wanted to keep it going. So each year it's kind of fallen now on me and our family to keep it going.
Yeah.
And so we have a nonprofit that we work with called the TESFA Foundation. Meazi and I are both volunteers on the board. She's a junior ambassador, and I've been a board member ever since. And it's a small organization. They have a country director in Ethiopia, and then they have their office in Minnesota, and then we're here in LA. So it's just a handful of people, and they're all volunteers, except for the country director in Ethiopia, obviously. But so yeah, we've just been keeping it going and adding to it over the years. And I'll let you have Meazi tell you what the latest development has been for the school and why.
Well, yeah, it really started off because of my mom's passion and how much the message resonated within our communities. The school, once founded, we needed to continue to keep it open. And that's been our big task over the past decade or so. And we put on various events to fundraise to keep it open and to offer whatever the community deemed most important. My mom explained that they opened a feeding program. The food program offers a lunch for each of these students, and I think it's quite meager. It's like bread and whatnot, but it's the most consistent food that these kids get, and so it's kind of our job to keep that resourced and open for these students because they rely upon it. And we open the school kind of works to support the community there. And through the kind of continued support of our communities here, we were able to keep it open. When I was in elementary school, quite a few years ago, but we partnered with my school and we held a fundraiser of sorts with a goal of raising 10 grand to provide books for the school. And my community came together quite well then. And we continue to call upon our community here to provide for these kids there. And so in lockdown during COVID, I was really searching for something to do, something useful and to use, spend my time on. And I wanted to really connect and engage with the world again because we've been so disconnected. And it really was taking quite a toll on me and my family and stuff. So I reached out to TESFA and asked them how we could be most useful to the community and what they were looking for. And serendipitously, they were working on an expansion. They wanted to provide more classes for the students because it only goes up to from grades kinder through fourth. It only goes up to fourth grade. Students can't get complete a certificate of completion of primary school. The certificate allows them to pursue further education. And without it, they have to complete their primary school education. And unfortunately, the closest school that provides them this resource is nearly an hour away on foot.
Oh my.
So it's crazy. It's astounding, honestly. But if these students want to finish their education, they're fifth and sixth grade, they have to just make that walk. And that was really unfortunate because the goal of starting the school was to make education accessible for these students, to provide them just bare minimum that all humans are owed. And so it was really serendipitous, and that became our big goal, just to fundraise to build these 2 grades and to keep them running. And so the goal came apparent, and we started brainstorming what we need to do and what was most pressing. And so we decided to host an art auction, kind of mirroring that of the initial art auction that was held to fundraise for the
initial build. And so that's been our undertaking for the past year and a half or so, was to get this auction off the ground. And so,
and I was pretty hands off it. You know, Meazi took it on as a project. I was busy, and so she had to really find her people to do this. And you know, she did. She asked her friends, and
yeah,
they came together.
I was gonna say, I assembled our team. Our like little name is called the Kids for Kololo. Kololo is the village I was born in, and I assembled peers, friends of mine, fellow 11th graders, at my school, Crossroads, and we worked to set up kind of what we needed to make it happen. We opened social media pages, and we like reached out to community members, and we were looking for venues to hold the event and people to like bring us food and drink for the event and whatnot. And we just really worked at it for the year, and like it was really reaching out to a community that would like for continued support.
And you know what I love about that is that you turned like a passion that you had into an actual goal, and you were able to accomplish it. And also the fact that social media has made the world a lot smaller and a lot more accessible. And I love that, because before you would have to be able to travel over there. You'd have to go to Ethiopia, find out what they need, come back, you know, with that message, fundraise, and then go back again, right? So now
Yeah.
it's like you can continue the communication. You could continue with that communication, and it's a lot easier to work with. Not that you don't want to visit, or not that you won't visit, because I know you guys have been out there, but it's like it makes it easy so you're not constantly flying back and forth, and you can deliver for them, and that's a wonderful thing.
We're just so much more connected because of it, and it shows up in all kind of different realms. We've gotten support from all over the country, and like I know that I've got peers and stuff who live in like Louisiana who are like, hey, what can we do for you? And I was like, hey, please, like, thank you for reaching out, you know. And we're so much more connected because of it, and like the communication is just amazing. I like I say this and I will continue to say this. It was only so successful because we had such a wonderful community at our back. My mom did say it was quite easy for that initial auction to like get goods and whatnot donated to host the event, and it wasn't as easy this time. And I imagine I think of different things like caused that. I imagine that having come out of a global pandemic and stuff, our kind of communities were shaken a bit stuff, but we really did come together to make it happen.
It was a really hard time to get people to donate, or restaurants, but everybody wanted to do something. Well, most people, but they got little things from places and bigger things from places, and but it's interesting because I know they reached out to one place, like kind of a negative story, but there's a reason for it, that said, oh, well, we don't like to donate to anything unless it's local. I said, it's like, well, our school is local to your business, but they didn't like the idea that it was over there, and it was kind of a short-sighted sort of moment for them, where it was a disappointment, and it was just a person or an organization that didn't get it. It didn't get, like, we have so much here. Yes, there are problems here. Yes, it's important here, but they don't even have the basics there. That we're talking about just 5th and 6th grade. If these kids don't go to 5th and 6th grade, that's pretty much it. They're going to be working, or the girls are going to be married, and that's it. That,
Seems like
no
a pretty harsh justification too, because if they could have just said, like, we have all our resources tied up, right? Like,
Yeah.
to say, like, oh, we only want to donate here. That kind of implies that they have the funds to donate, but they're just choosing not to. So that's kind of like a real mean way to go about it, like mean-spirited way to go about it.
It's just kind of short-sighted, and they missed the point. And it was such a beautiful thing to see these kids all come together, teenagers who have much more fun things to do than, you know, put a lot of work into something outside of themselves. Like teenagers in general tend to be kind of self-centered, and this group was not. They had a plan and they worked hard, and it's really beautiful. So I think that, I mean, that was just one person, and everybody else was like, well, you know, I can donate pita bread, and, you know, but that's it. And but just the beauty behind, like, people who wanted to help, or, you know, artists who donated their work and their beautiful paintings, and just the people who came forth with such goodness, you know, I think it was returned to them, you know, in the feeling that they got, and the satisfaction of watching these kids reach this enormous financial goal. And, you know, I think it was really beautiful. And I think people who showed up in whatever way, we had kids come, you know, friends of Meazi's who weren't in her little initiative group, who asked if they could volunteer at the event. And these kids were passing food, and, you know, it was really amazing. And again, teenagers, you know,
Yeah.
who
That was a point.
yeah, doing something fun, are here working.
Yeah, that was a point that I wanted to touch on, Mozzie. So I'm glad your mom brought it up. You're and I mean it the most respectful way. You're a youngster. Youngsters, again, like your mother said, are typically pretty self-centered. They're and it's not a, you know, they're trying to understand the world around them. The easiest way to do it is to, you know, look at it from your point of view, right? And then you can grow. How is it at such a young age that you're able to view the world outside of just your own world? And what keeps you so determined and driven to make a change? A lot of people say they want to make change, but you're going about making that change. What's the inspiration behind that?
Well, very honestly, I'm still a teen, and I have my moments where I'm a little self-centered, but I think that I'm really fortunate to have quite a lot of opportunities and like resources afforded to me, and I am really fortunate to have like the perspective to understand that and to see that, and like to really know how much I have and how little others, you know, have, and to really know that I just to really understand how fortunate I am, just makes it really apparent that I like owe it to the world to work to help others. I like I said, I really wanted to engage. It it was just driving. It just made sense, and
Yeah.
I don't really know how to say other than like I'm fortunate to have the perspective and to have the support and resources to do that. Um, it kind of serendipitously worked out, and I'm just really like really fortunate to have the support. Having seen my own mother do this, she did this with her first auction. To know that it's possible is like the first piece, because there were definitely moments when I was like, I don't know if this is gonna like come through, and I don't know if this is gonna turn out how we want it to.
Yeah.
But to know that it's possible, my mom held a very successful auction, and we've had other fundraising events throughout. I know we had a spin fundraiser a couple years ago, and we had a goal of we didn't know what to make our like fundraising goal be, and we were like, is 25,000, 30,000 too high a goal? Is that like too much? And my mom just for the heck of it was like, we're gonna make our goal $50,000, you know, which was like quite a large sum. And because we just like aimed high and really worked at it, it like came out, it worked out. And having like examples like my mom and other just wonderful role models, made it so that it didn't seem so hard, it didn't seem so challenging, and to have them to like lean on. I had a team of something like 7 8 close friends who were there with me and trying to help in whatever way they could, and to have my mom as an invaluable resource, and other
Definitely.
people equipped in their own ways, you know.
Yeah, and then one thing I also wanted to touch on that both of you brought up is this time around wasn't as easy as the first time, right? First time, and so this is I want to get your guys' view on this, and maybe have you elaborate on this. That this is a huge part of success that a lot of people don't want to see, and it's just that when you're motivated and when things are flowing, it's easy.
Yeah,
It's easy, but
absolutely.
to continue that work when it's not so easy, that does take extra drive, that does take extra motivation, because it could be discouraging for somebody to say, no, I'm not going to help you. No.
Yeah.
And if you hear that repeatedly, and it's like, wow, it was so easy last time. Like what do you guys think about facing those kinds of adversity? Are they challenges that you welcome, or do you see them as growing opportunities?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about facing those kinds of adversities?
Very honestly, when we were starting out, we were having trouble figuring out a venue to hold our auction at, and I reached out to what's the word? A gallery. I reached out to a gallery, a close gallery, and I was like, "Hey guys, can we use your space? It's a wonderful cause, and I'm very closely connected, you know, and they knew me very well." And we had a lot of back and forth about it. Um, and eventually it turned out that we just couldn't. It was unfortunate and didn't work out. And it kind of worked out at the worst possible time too, to get the rejection. We had conversation, like, to secure a venue, you kind of have to do that quite early in the process, because
Yeah.
space is a challenge and you need to have that certainty early on. And something like 3 or 4 months before the auction, we were told, unfortunately, no, we can't. I think it was 3 months, honestly. And that was just entirely too late. And so we like reached out to two other people and we're like, hey, can you help us with this? And I got a no from one of my folks. And it was like, I think that was probably the lowest place I'd been during the process, because like if we didn't have a space, it just wasn't happening, you know?
I think that was the moment, and I said something like, you know, you could push this until the summer. It felt like we were going to need 6 to 9 more months
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the kids to find a spot.
Mm.
And
And
that
there
could,
was a moment like, do we just call it and say, hey, we didn't do it this time,
Not
and
going out, you know?
all these kids are busy and they're
Yeah.
studying for the ACT and they've got extracurricular, there's kids on sports, and it's like, now we don't have a venue,
yeah,
so that was
I
the
I can
moment.
only imagine how difficult that could be, because you want it to happen, and it's, you know, that there's a lot going on here, but there's a lot going out over there for the main reason that you're doing this, right? And it's like, could we could put it off here, we could put it off, but could they afford that, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you're going through life, that's probably a difficult thing to like to kind of weigh things out. How are we going to do this? Is this even possible? So
Yeah.
what actually ended up happening?
Very fortunately, um, the third person I reached out to very generously offered their yard. They had a lovely, lovely yard. And they were like, please, please go ahead and use it. And they really came through. I think they were our kind of biggest supporter, in that if they hadn't like helped us in the way they did, we wouldn't have had the event and it wouldn't have been nearly as successful as it had been.
That's dope. Yeah.
Yeah,
Before that though, what were you guys feeling before that? Up to that point,
I
two rejections in a row. What was going through your minds?
it was one of the things that I was working on. We kind of like divvied up tasks, and I was like, oh my god, I'm really like kind of failing on my bit, and if this doesn't happen, it's not happening, you know. And I had quite a lot of things happening school wise. I'm in junior year, which is kind of known to be the gnarliest year of high school, like standardized tests and whatnot and stuff, as my mom said. And I was just feeling really swamped. I was like, I'm gonna drown. I'm like, not gonna have. It's not gonna happen. And it's gonna be my fault that it's not happening, you know. And really, it was just like power of community. I reached out to a friend that I hadn't reached out to before, and asked him. I was like, hey, can you help me? And they were really happy to, and they were really invigorated by the kind of work we were doing, and they thought it was really special, and they were really glad to help us. And the other folks, it's not that they didn't want to help us at all. It wasn't like a lack of charity. It was just, unfortunately, their hands were tied and it wasn't going to work out. But they just came through, and I was really like struggling. I think around September, October, I was like, oh my god, I don't know if this is going to happen. And ironically enough, we wanted the event to be held in October. Like that was kind of our target date, and I was just like watching as our target date like moved on, and yeah, but yeah.
And Julie, for you, I know you said you were hands off this time around. How difficult is that as a mom to be like, oh man, like I know there were times where you probably, you want to fight the battle, but this is her, this is her project, and she, as children have to grow, right? You can't just be there every step of the way. You have to let them learn. How difficult was that for you?
Well, very difficult because yeah, it's I wanted to be completely hands off, but then you don't want your child to fail, right? And Mozzie was working very hard and she had a lot of other things she was doing, and her friends were doing what they could, but they also, were busy. And um, I think that there's also a part where, even if she weren't my kid, like people work at different speeds too. Like Mozzie can finish things right up to the last minute. She can knock it out, right? And I'm more of a like, well, you should start 3 months on this part, and by 2 months, I'm more of a nervous about last minute. Like I
Yeah.
can't do anything last minute. Like I think Mozzie and her friends, if they had lost the venue the day of, would have come up with something else. Say, okay, well, let's just go to the beach and just throw the pictures up on the beach or something. But I didn't. That was very challenging for me to see them not kind of check things off the list at a certain date. Like I thought they should have a calendar, and by this date this is done, and that didn't happen, and that was making me really nervous for them. But I think I did a pretty good job of staying hands off, because I really wanted them to have the experience of working together. And I think Mozzie, I won't speak for you, but I think it's interesting to work with your friends and to see that dynamic. And as a peer, you have to learn how to kind of lead. Mozzie's definitely a leader, but I think with your friends, it's tricky because it's tricky for me as
Yeah.
an adult to say, hey man, you're slacking on your part, and I'm not great at it yet either, and I'm old, so um
Very honestly, I think like my mom's quite right on that. We're high schoolers, we are teenagers, and we kind of have the work ethic of teenagers. But as our kind of work became more apparent and how like pressing things were and how important the stuff was, like our focus definitely honed in. But my mom definitely did hit on a point in that it was a learning curve for kind of all of us. It was a learning curve for my mom to like hand over the reins a bit, but and like trust. Um, and it was like a shift in our dynamic and how we work together and stuff, and like what we needed of our relationship. And like working with my peers, I was kind of the spearhead of all the whole cause and stuff. So like my friends were looking to me to help them, figure out what to do. And to that, there's definitely like responsibilities you assume as kind of a leader. But when they're your close friends, some of the folks I've known for, better portion of my life, like 10 years or something, 7 to 10 years, it's hard to say like, hey,
Yeah, like, hey, what are you doing? Get up, do something. Yeah, it's like, oh,
yeah,
now
it's
you're the
hard.
boss. Yeah, yeah, it's especially for kids that a lot of them have chips on their shoulders. They're trying to discover who they are, and they're like, you're not gonna tell me what. Yeah, so that
Exactly.
must
And
be challenging.
it was very difficult to like redefine our dynamic to like accommodate and to really work, and there's a lot of conversations that I had where I was like, I'm not too upset if you can't do something. I just need it to get done. And so can you let me know so that I can, make it happen one way or another? And it doesn't have to be you. And I'm not going to be upset if, you can't get this done, but you do have to let me know. I will be upset if it doesn't happen because of you. And it was a lot of different conversations like that that I definitely had to figure out how to have. And it gave me a lot of perspective on like what leadership really means. And I don't know if like I'm looking forward to it, not gonna lie.
Well,
But
it sounds like you did a great job. And one thing that I think a lot of people get confused is leadership isn't about being the boss. It's about being able to communicate. And I think that's, you learn that lesson. And I'm glad that you were able to learn it so early on, because a
yeah.
lot of people, it takes them years and years to finally figure it. Some people never figure it out, unfortunately, but you figured it out early on, and yeah, you're a natural leader.
Yeah, no, it really like it. A lot of things I learned. I learned a lot from this project, and I'm really glad that I have it in my belt, like in my tool belt now, because I'm just better equipped to handle what's coming. And I will continue to do work like this because it was just so fulfilling. Um, Even if it hadn't been as like massive success as it was, we had a like fundraising goal of $100,000, which every time like I thought about it, I got chills because I was like, I don't know, I can't even imagine that sum of money, like like what that actually means. And we exceeded it by nearly $20,000,
Oh
and so
wow.
it was really just a massive success. But as I was saying, even if it hadn't been as much of a success, I think it would still have felt so fulfilling. The night of, to like be at the event and to be in the yard like all decked out, and we had multiple jazz bands that came through and like played to really liven up the atmosphere and stuff. To be there and to see kind of all our work pay off, and like have all these guests kind of mingling and enjoying it, just so fulfilling. And I definitely want to like repeat of that.
Definitely, definitely. And the schools over there, were they able to get the fifth and sixth grade classes, or is that something they're still working on?
They've got the funds now, so they just have to, do the work and
The
build.
infrastructure, yeah.
Yeah,
I heard yesterday that they may start as soon as January
Oh
building.
wow.
it's
That's all
amazing.
your guys' work. That's dope. That's so dope. And what's the future looking like? What is the future of the project, or what do you guys what's the next endeavor?
Well, for our Small Kids for Kololo initiative, which is just going to be a chapter of kind of this school's history, um, we want to go out on site and see the school and bring the children that worked on it, bring my friends and I there to see the kids at the school and do projects with them and stuff. Um, we have a target of spring of 2023 to go out there, but that's only if the climate permits. We're still very much, COVID is very much an issue. We're still in this kind of global pandemic, and there's quite a lot of political tension in Ethiopia right now. The government's called a state of emergency, so it's not really the safest right now to go over there. So we kind of have to table our goals and just see what the climate permits.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and on the kind of fundraising side and on the like running of the school side, I think a very much long-term goal would be to set up some sort of endowment or trust for the school so that we don't have to like scramble to put this together every year or so or every 2 years so that the school can stay open. Um, and it
Yeah,
establish
it almost feels like I always think about how um, it's almost worse to build a school and then have it close in a
Yeah.
place like that than to never have built a school at all. So it's a little stressful, to think about this school, cannot close. We have to keep it going. So yeah, having some sort of annual donor or endowment, like Mazi said, would certainly
that's
be
a bit of
helpful.
a longer term endeavor, but while I'm still around, as long as like my mom and myself and friends of ours are around, they have a community here that'll support them, a resourced community here that'll support them. But like when we're no longer here, what does that mean for the school? So establishing some sort of endowment that'll keep it open. um,
Well, you guys had it for the last 10 years, so it sounds like it's you guys have kept it going, and that's great because you're right though. I understand. I've come from pretty crazy background, and one thing that we understood was let down, right?
yeah,
Like you come over here with promises, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, yeah, I knew it, and it kind of justifies your negativity, right? Like you're so. But I love what you guys are doing. I do because that's 10 years of education that has been going there, and that gives people opportunity,
it's
not only opportunity but a vision.
yeah,
And I think that's the biggest thing. You have to allow people to be able to dream. Some people are
absolutely.
born into situations where they don't know how to dream, and if you bring that to them, it'll the world is I mean, they get to see so much more of it than they were able to. And
Absolutely.
I really commend you guys for that.
Yeah, we were really fortunate to get footage of the students and interviews with the students there. And some kids were like, some of the kids were talking about what they'd love to do, and they were like, "We'd love to be doctors," And they're from a rural farming town. Like that's all that happens there is farming, you know. Without the school, they're really, that's all that would be in their future. Marriage for girls at like age 15, 12 to 15, you know, and work. And so the fact that these kids have really big dreams is just a beautiful thing.
Definitely.
And to keep that going for them is just like means the world to me, and I imagine it means the world to them too.
And so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Before we do, is there anything you guys would like to add?
I'm happy to go after you if you'd like, Mom.
Oh, no, I mean, I did want to mention that, you know, we certainly had people who have also been with us from the beginning. It's not like it was just us. You know, other certainly adoptive families too have been constant supporters of the school, and they get it. They've been to Ethiopia. They know what it's like to be a kid in Ethiopia and be a kid here, and how, you know, how the inequities are just glaring, and we've found a lot of support in that community over the years with the school, whether it's financial or just showing up, or, you know, so we have that community that's helped sustain us. I just wanted to mention that because that has been integral. And these same people were 10 years later at this event, or donated, or did something. You know, I get goosebumps thinking about it, but they're all kind of founders of this school, and they want it to keep going too. So it takes a lot of people, you know, who have the same feelings and know that kids are kids everywhere, and that a kid like Meazi should have education, you know, and there are so many kids like Meazi and like all her friends in her initiative with talent and curiosity and dreams, like you said, and just why shouldn't they have the same opportunity to have just the very basic education at least? It just seems like such a simple thing. So we hope to keep it going for sure.
To my mom's point, it takes a village. It takes a village that are just as impassioned as, you know, you are. And the only thing that I really wanted to add, one of my team members, Jack Oshinsky, said this when he was doing a bunch of outreach, was it's remarkable how little it takes to be impactful. How, like, especially here where we're based in LA, which is just like really such a resource city. It takes so little. My school, I think, costs upwards of 40 grand a year tuition for each kid. And school for a kid in Ethiopia costs $250. So it is immeasurable how little one can do to be impactful. And that's why, you know, just all of the support and all of the love that came in, no matter how small, was just appreciated and so important. And to that point, yes, our gratitude is immense and everyone was important, but to that point, you can start small. You don't have to have a massive goal of raising $100,000 to, you know, build a school and, you know, expand on a school. You can start really small. You can just, you know,
and not because not everything's gonna happen overnight. This has been a 10-year journey. Right? So it's like not everything was done like in the beginning. I love that.
So just like engage with your world, and if it's something local, like if you're into pets, you know, if you like cats, like support your local animal shelter. You know, just like however you can help yourself and enrich your own life by like engaging with the world around you and trying to make it a better place. Because it's been so wonderful for me, and it's like really warmed my heart in a way that I can't even explain.
And if anyone wants to follow the progress of the school or like what's happening next, if they want to keep in contact, you know, keep up with the story or what's going on, is there I know you mentioned there was social media built for the fundraising. Is there anywhere people could follow just to see what's going on, and if there's anything in the future coming up, maybe go there to donate?
We have an Instagram page, kids_4_Kololo. all spelled out. I'll send it to you, Javier, so you can also share on your social media and whatnot.
And there's a link tree on there, kind of.
Which
with
has
there was an article in the Santa Monica paper about the initiative, and there's some other links where people can go to tesfa.org, which is the nonprofit that we're talking about that's running the school on the ground. They have 2 other schools, and
so
yeah.
absolutely.
And we'll have the link below, and I'll also when this is out, you guys will see it on the bottom of the screen there.
Wonderful.
So appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Thank you for sharing your ambition and drive. I know people are going to be motivated by it, and there's a lot of gems in your guys' story. I appreciate you guys sharing it with us.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you guys. And with that, we out. Peace.